Good evening, heroes and heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, the show in which we continue making Cinera's config file stuff. Now let's just pick up quickly on something I sort of thought about in the interim between the previous stream and this current stream. I sort of realised that here we have the idea of like applying two things to one person, so applying two support platforms to the one person, right? But what we've been doing, what we've been doing kind of down here is having the idea of people inheriting things and overwriting options if we can do. So an example of that would be well, actually we're here, wasn't it? Default medium, right? So we've got the default medium of all the projects. We're just saying it's going to be research, but then if it's risky, then we actually overwrite the default medium with programming, right? So it's like this idea of overwriting, essentially. Now they are in different scopes, you see. This guy is in this project risky scope, where like this default medium is in this outer project risky scope. Now we also have this idea here in Mio's person. He has this support, and then I initialize a second one here. Now I was sort of wondering, could that be like awkward to handle? And I was thinking a possible way around that would be to do, rather than doing multiple supports, you actually have like a comma separated list, essentially. So you do something like that, and then I guess if you needed to do another thing in there, you do it like that, right? So that would be the PayPal scope, and then if you need to do a further one, you just do like that, and you just kind of keep tacking them on. But I'm not sure if that's something that we necessarily need, because we could just say, I think we could just say that when you're in the same scope, so like if you initialize another one of the same type of thing in the same scope, it's just considered to be like an additional one. It's not considered to be overwriting the previous one, because it wouldn't make sense to sort of say the support here is Patreon, and then you want to actually overwrite it with another support platform, if that makes sense. So I think this is probably fine, having it like this, where you can just pile them all up. Another thing was also we were thinking about having this support, this whole Patreon stuff as a built-in thing, right? Weren't we? So I think in order to handle that, I think I'm going to comment this out, right, and add to the parser the this built-in thing, essentially. So the parser itself will come with this, and it will just say, like when a person needs to use the Patreon support platform, it uses the built-in stuff, so we don't need to write this. And I think this would be a reasonable default URL as well. because that's just how Patreon URLs just are, basically. So I think that would be how I'd do that. We will have we'll have you know, a non-built-in one here. PayPal. This is going to be provided by the person who's using it. There was one final thing, which was including. Oh yeah, also the we need to think about the equals or not, or semicolon or not. I think I'm definitely going to go with the semicolon. Well, actually, am I? Yeah, let's just say that we're going to go with it. So all like assignments are going to be, they're going to end with a semicolon, basically. The only reason I was thinking of doing that really was if we do have the idea of a list, you know, a comma separated list. Because if you do have a comma separated list, you're going to have a way to actually say that you've come to the end of the list. You know, in a way that's like syntactically verifiable, really. But if we don't have yeah, if we don't have lists, then we could get away without having that delimiter, I think. Not delimiter, but the you know, the sort of punctuation mark, the semicolon. Let's stick it in actually, and just see if it becomes a problem. See if we need it. You know, while we're doing the parser later, let's see if we actually need this, or whether checking it just seems to be like something that is a waste of effort. You know, it doesn't give us any useful information. If it turns out that it doesn't give us any useful information, then we can just get rid, basically. So we need to make sure that all of these projects actually, all of these little scope dudes. In fact, I think it is literally just that, isn't it? Like whenever you see a closing scope, it's just that. There's one up there. By the way, I'm currently listening to my favourite song of 2018. Scorpio and Androzani by Heather Lee. So yeah, we are going to pull all that stuff in. We're going to tokenize that semicolon. And then the idea is if, you know, if the parser needs to use that semicolon to determine stuff, then we'll keep it. If not, then we won't. And then this equals stuff here, I mean, I think for consistency I will just sort of say that we will use the equals. Just so it's all the same. But again, that's another thing that we still had a question about. We don't actually know if that's actually necessary. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of these things the idea about the semicolon, by the way, was also partly to do with the syntax highlighting, wasn't it? But the equals thing didn't have that question. Yeah, I don't know. Again, you know, the same as we were just saying, see what the parser makes of it. See if the parser actually needs the equals to distinguish between different things. If it does, then we keep it. If not, then we don't. Right, so we're driven by what the parser actually needs. I think if we're driven by the writability of it, we'd probably just say it doesn't have an equals sign, because it's just more typing, isn't it, really? It's more typing. It's kind of, I don't know, it just makes the thing a bit bigger, really. And it's just another thing that you could forget to do, isn't it? And it's like, you know, the thing is going to have to report you forgot to put an equal sign in, and it might just feel like unfair, basically, because it could just feel like it could just figure it out for you. Same deal with the semicolon, actually. So if they could, so yeah, I think the idea is if they can, probably yes. This is saying, let's say that if they can, if the parser doesn't need an equals or a thing, then we just get rid. Right, that's what we'll just say. So both of these questions, or let the parser, let the answer these two above questions. And that'll be fine. And then the final thing we actually need is the idea of including things. So including a different file. So for example, we could say that persons, like this is probably what we will actually want. What I'm thinking here is just like, besides how gorgeous this song is, I'm just sort of thinking like, do you want the ability to be able to merge assignations, essentially? And that might be potentially difficult to do. Well, actually, maybe not. I was thinking it might be difficult because here we've got product equals risky, and we've got another product equals risky. right? So if we were to have in another file, if we were to have include, you know, like, let me just make a new file. So this is going to be like Cinera included.conf. Well, actually, no. Cinera included.conf. Oops. How do you do this? File is a file type. Right. So say that we have this. And you wanted to say that the risky project actually gets this information I think it'd be reasonable for the included person to be able to set the default medium, right? Because that's the thing that is kind of a convenience thing for the person who writes the stuff. The numbering scheme is more driven, I think, by what the site how the site wants to present it. So yeah, right. I think the owner should always be the same. What I'm basically driving at here is, if we were to allow merging of projects, what's going to happen here is, well, you've also got the question of who takes precedence also, haven't you? I think the includer should be the one who takes precedence, so they drive the whole thing, right? So they have the ultimate responsibility for saying that stuff. If we were to do this here, right, and we included it at the well, actually, you could actually say that you allow sort of piecemeal inclusions. The problem I was thinking of was basically this: if you do like include is equal to Cinera, right? If you did that up there, so that pulled this guy in, and you wanted to merge, you would have this project merging with this project here, and so potentially overwriting this default medium, which isn't what we wanted. We actually wanted it to overwrite this. But perhaps what you could do is you could just have, you know, you actually do that. So you sort of mirror the structure that's on here, right? So if you do include it here, then you get you get it happening at this scope essentially, and then whatever scopes are in here actually apply to these guys down here. However, if you like, you could possibly say this. Right, so you have different include different scope levels, in which case you don't need the outer scope in here. Yeah, maybe that could be okay. It could be okay, and it could be something that we do actually want to have the ability to do. Obviously, for things like this, you could just trivially have that in there, and it just applies at the top level. So as long as you've got included up here, it includes it. Yeah, let's see if that idea works. Okay. So we've got default medium research. I mean, technically, right, we could actually just plop this in the book, because all of the book club guys have the research medium. We could potentially do that, and then we comment this out, comment that out, so that we allow this to take effect. We should also test actually the precedence stuff. What? Oh right, yeah. Actually, it's notes, isn't it? That's what it'll be. Right. So we're not going to be testing that at first. We're just going to be getting the idea that we're actually doing this. Another thing that I would like to be able to say, oops, under here is the idea of permissions, essentially. So it's like, what stuff are you allowed to set in the Cinera included? Because I essentially want to be able to say that, for example, the base output directory is not a thing that can be overwritten by an included thing. Right, this should just be a canonical thing that is set by the administrator, and nobody else should know anything about any of this. Yeah, none of these things, like the log level, doesn't make sense for anybody other than the administrator to set that, nor the update interval. So I want to be able to sort of say what we actually allow or deny. So let's see how we can do that. I think we should probably have the idea of whether a thing is permissible by default, whether this including is permissible by default or prohibitive by default. And the way you do that is just by saying whichever one you want it to be able to do, essentially. I mean, maybe there could be some preset defaults actually that the includes allow, or that they disallow. I mean, essentially, one of the things that you should be allowed to set, you should be allowed to set the person, and you should be allowed to set the medium. Right, and then you should be allowed to set the project, the project's default medium. Right. So this would allow you to set everything about the person. This would allow you to set everything about the medium. And this would allow you to set the default medium of a project. Right? Maybe that would be reasonable. Just also make a note. In fact, let's put it up at the top. Well, it's not EG, is it? It's like default sets of include parameters. Yeah, and I guess like if something itself within the project has a scope, have we got anything that's like that? We haven't got anything that's like that. So maybe we don't need anything more than that. Basically, I was going to say, if you needed to then narrow it down even further, you then do this sort of thing. So you say that you're allowed to set the further option of a default medium of a project. Maybe that's how that would work. Right. So then when you come to this include, and you're parsing this thing, so we're going to tokenize it anyway. Right, we're going to come through here, and when we hit this include, we actually tokenize this thing here. Oh shit, actually. Yeah, if we're going to allow merging. That's a bit funky, isn't it? Well, we're going to, so yeah, we're going to tokenize it as a different file, right? We're going to actually say that at this point here, we've got a file that contains these tokens. So I suggest that, you know, it won't be all mixed in with the same tokens of this file here. So we will be able to, like, you know, if we encounter a medium admin in here, for example, well, if we encounter the project risky in here, then we can like marry it up with the with the other set of tokens from the, well, it's actually going to be the other parsed thing, isn't it? Because they've got to be parsed, so we can actually figure out whether they're the same. So yeah, I guess maybe we tokenize them and parse them separately, and then we do the merge. Yeah, tokenize, parse, do the merge. And then maybe do we need another final pass to see if it's still valid? Not sure. We'll find out. Okay, yeah. So I think we're ready to go for it. Reasonably sure that I've remembered everything that we needed to do. We need the built-in support. And yes, we were thinking of tokenizing and parsing the guys, the included stuff separately. And then we're going to see about this thing here, like do we need the equal signs? Do we need the semicolons? So yeah, okay. I will just be one moment and then we will begin with our parser. Another thing we need to support actually is dependency cycles, which I forgot to mention. So let's just make a note of that. Just is that what you call it? Dependency cycle or cyclic dependencies? Basically what I'm talking about is like, if this person up here were to do a include, and it was just like Cinera conf, right? You've got this person here including this file, and you've got this file itself including that. You want to actually make sure the, well, I mean, we already sort of disallow it anyway, because in here we don't actually allow includes, right? So we sort of get away with it. Well, we should be able to get away with that. But I mean, there could be a rule that you can't include, like an included file can't include stuff. And then that would just handle the cyclic dependencies problem, because you just wouldn't have that problem. So yeah. That might just have to do. So yeah, now we need, let me just see where we are actually in terms of Git. So untrack, so these are all untrack files. Cinera working config.c. Where exactly is Cinera_included.conf? Oh, it's there. Cinera_included.conf is there. And Cinera_conf is here. Okay, so these guys are untracked. So if I were to just do, well, we've already got a config.c. Should I just do it in there? Sorry. Interesting that I've already got this kind of stuff. I think this might have been inspired by pairs bitwise. Yeah, intern string range. So I'm interning stuff, yeah. Which is what pair does. start of pairs code. There you go. So I wonder where end of pairs code is. This is my business up here. Yeah, I don't think I got very far with this actually. Because you can see, like, config media, there's no count. I mean, I guess it, yeah, if I'm saying if it's a linked list, then it would just, well, it'd need the next there, wouldn't it? Well, config media we need to contain the next, a pointer to its next. So that wasn't actually, you know, if it's a linked list, it'd have to contain pointer to the next one. If it's not a linked list, then this would have to contain at least the count of however many there are. I think what I'll do is I'm going to save this off as the old one. I mean, it's not really, it's config unfinished. Right. Then close that. And then just start afresh. So we've now got the config unfinished. I've got the config.c there. Yeah. Yeah, let's just what's that? Let's just buffer config.c. Notes has changed, has it? Right, let's just remove config.c and just start a new one. Okay. Need a way to set the to make Vim know that it's file type C. Let's just have a quick look in. It's also, it's not that, is it? It's file type is C. I mean, that's all we needed, isn't it? It's just file type C. Oops. Yeah, that's what we needed. Don't need that. Oh, do we need that actually? Maybe we do need that. I don't know. So Ben knows that that's a C file, C syntax file. Right. So let's go for it. So let's first of all read it into the thing. We're going to do our functions for reading in files and stuff, but I'll just do it again, honestly. So we want to read this file into a buffer. It's that, isn't it? Yeah. In fact, these will always 64 bits anyway, won't they? So they can be wherever. They can be in whatever order I want. Does not matter. So we want to read a file into a buffer. I guess you can make it return the buffer. Yes. Actually, I had another thing that's like a file buffer, didn't I? Which itself is going to contain a buffer. Is that how it goes? Probably need standard lib for that, don't I? Yeah. Standard IO. Yeah. Maybe we set the file size separately as well. Maybe. I mean, the buffer size is going to end up being the same as the size, because I think I will make it not a null terminated buffer. Basically. So the size is what it is. I think this should be correct. Yeah, so say that we call what file so we're saying reading that file into the buffer, results equal to that. So how do you do this again? You want to open that thing as readable. So the result file handle. fopen file path. Do I have fopen? Oh, that's the point. You can't return failure. I guess down here you could sort of say that if you've got the handle, maybe. Don't know. If we get the handle, can I actually do it with that with fewer parentheses actually? Yeah. We need to figure out the size, don't we? So it's is it F set or something? F tel. Ah, yeah, F seek. File position indicated for the stream pointing to my stream. So I'm going to F seek. The stream. Long offset whence. Offset is 0, I believe, and then seek ends, wasn't it? And then ftel. I think that's right. To the result. Buffer size. And then we want to seek back to the beginning. And then read it in. Beyond Scrooge drop caused frustration. Right. I think that's all you need. Oh, you need to malloc it, don't you? Or calloc it. Well, does it matter? No. What was the error? Implicitly declaring like, oh, standard lib. So you malloc that. Oh, you also need to set the buffer point to be the result. Right. I think that was correct. And then you can just say that's in uni ISTD, isn't it? Okay. Let's just see how crashy this is already. Okay, so that's fine. That's done its job. So now we just want to go through this buffer, tokenizing the whole thing. So it's like tokenize is going to take a buffer. It's going to return a set of tokens. So and then it's just going to have a count, and then it's going to have the actual token, right? I think. And then the token itself is going to have a type. So we need yeah, right, so it's like it's all the guys that we need. So comment, single line. Token identifier. We do have a number for the update interval. Token equals semicolon. Token open brace. We're not interpreting this because this is just within a comment itself, and this is not our syntax. This is the template syntax. So yeah, I think that's the only types that we have. So the token is going to have a type. I mean, it's going to have a pointer into this thing here. It needs a pointer. I'd suggest a length. Yeah, that's just probably all it is. So it's essentially a string. Although a number is actually technically not going to be a string. It only shakes out as a string because a buffer is it's car stars. So it's like I guess the content. think that's right. I don't think white space needs to be a token itself. You don't tokenize that as something that we use. And then things like the specifics of it, like project, title is prefix. These things are part of the parser. So these aren't things that these are all identifiers, right? So they're not thing. We only recognize them as identifiers, even though they are different things. It's only when you come to the parser that they actually look at what the actual content of this thing, of each identifier is, to do what it needs to do with those things, essentially. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I guess we could make some strings that tell us what the comment thingamajigs are. So a single comment is going to look like that. Ah, actually, yeah, we need the open and close, don't we? String number assign. Open. I mean, I guess technically we could actually just sort of say and if we stick these guys up here, well, stick all of these guys up there. Would that be any help to us at all? Well, I guess it might be. If it's not, then we just get rid. There you go, there was a need for the semicolon. We're going to need an array count at some point, aren't we? could do the... Oh, we could do the count, couldn't we? Token count. Although that's not going to help us for the verifying that the token strings are the same length as this. So basically the idea here is a string is going to be double quoted. Double quoted alphanumeric. This is going to be alphanumeric. And this is going to be numeric. So we're going to want the idea of pushing tokens and fitting them. I think this is correct. Unless we actually increment the pointer in the loop itself, just so we've got a bit more control over where that's going. You know, in which case it's just a while. Is that right? Not sure. Let's see how it goes. We do know that we need a fit token and a push token anyway. So a fit token should actually take the tokens probably. And they should probably take the tokens and the sorry, tokens and the actual and an actual token itself. Type and content. So the block size is 16, just for the hell of it. Now usually what I do, actually, in this situation, is I usually have a count and have a capacity. But I think what we could do is, since it only grows, right, I think it should be possible to actually determine whether we need to expand or not based on how many there already are in it. So basically, let's just stick with what I'm familiar with. Then we can think about that a fancier way in a bit. Sorry. Or if yeah, right, so if the count is equal to the capacity, then we want to increase the capacity by the block size. And then we want to say if we actually have tokens. Oh no, we don't need to do that, do we? You can just realloc anyway. Because realloc, if token isn't initialized anyway, it just treats it as a malloc. Is this going to work? Kind of seems to have done. I mean, it might not end up working, but we'll see. So let's try and push one token on. And let's just try and push on all the single line comments. guess we want a strings differ function actually, don't we? But we also want the ability we want to make sure that we don't actually fly past the end of the buffer. Right. And I think this is what Casey was talking about, isn't it? He was saying the one place where length strings aren't good is in tokenizing. So I think we just encountered why, haven't we? Because essentially in the strings differ thing, if you're able to say essentially this, right? If you're able to say this and then you pass to your strings differ function the pointer, you know, if you pass this B pointer and one of these people, the B pointer is going to, if it's null terminated, you know, if the buffer is null terminated, then the B pointer is going to end up being a null at some point. But if it isn't null terminated, then you end up, you can't check that. So maybe I should actually retain that buffer being null terminated just to make that process possible. Just to make it easy to do. Right. So the buffer is going to be like this. We're going to say the buffer size. We're going to, let's store the file size separately. I mean, do we need to store the file size at all, actually? I don't think we do. Oh, right. Right, so then this thing here, this buffer will actually end up being null terminated. And just to double check that, we could just print out this thing here, like so, and hopefully it won't crash. Yeah. and then the token strings. Actually, it's not this, is it? It's do we want to push a token? Well, actually, we want to go to the end of the line, don't we? Actually. Do you want to say a token? Actually, is that even right? Is it just not this? Right, well, that's valid. Right. And once we've hit that new line character, then we say that the t contact length is equal to, we've lost the length, haven't we? Oh, actually. And then just do push token onto the results. Maybe that's right. Let's do a free tokens thing as well, just while we're here. I mean, also, honestly. Okay, so let's do a print tokens. print or dump tokens, but whatever. Yeah, int I is equal to 0. I is less than the tokens count. And then it's just literally just print string, isn't it? Because that's all we have. Well, it's actually token content, isn't it? Now this will end up being like a switch on the type of the token, but not just yet. To make it always print to standard error. Right, so now with a bit of luck, we should end up just seeing the comments. Heap buffer overload strings differ. Tokenized strings differ. While A and B and A, well, A equals B. Oh, actually, hang on a minute. Let me just do that test first. Read of size 1. Tokenize, so while A and B and A is equal to B, plus A, return the value. Is that what I want, or is this what I want? Actually, it's not this, is it? It's while that. Well, A and B, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, isn't it? Well, A and B, and the value at A is equal to the value at B, plus A and plus B, and then return the value at A, take away the value at B. Read of size 1. Well, yeah, I mean, if A is equal to thingamajig, so we're getting, we're always getting the forward slashes, are we? let's also send in where we actually are in the file, just to be sure. Too few arguments. What do you mean too few arguments? So we're testing against 0, 0, 0, 1, 13, 13. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the file. Yeah, I mean, it's always that, isn't it? So we're testing against the 0th twice, apparently. Then testing against the 1. Testing against the 13th twice, and testing against the 14. Five, eight, 6, 1. I wonder if it's getting confused because we have like different parts where, you know, it's using 2 here, but it's using 1 here. I wonder if it's, the problem is it's trying to dereference something that it shouldn't be able to dereference there. Don't think I've spotted that problem before though. And also it shouldn't really. Let me just try something weird. When I read the file in, let me just say that the actual it's actually a bit into the file, like it's, so we don't get the full file. Yeah, you see, it's not respecting the fact that there's a null terminator in there, is it? So why is it not doing that? While B pointer is it that actually? Yeah, Jesus it is. Okay. print tokens. So why did we get down to print tokens? I don't think we did we? Why did that not print anything? The T count. Okay, so did we not increase the count? We did increase the count here. Set count type is equal to that push token block size. If the count is equal to the capacity, we need to increase the capacity by the block size. And then we need to reallocate that to give us the actual size that we need. Is this size incorrect? Let's try and print string when we actually do this here. Now, isn't that suspicious? Well, we are pushing the token, aren't we? We are calling push token here. So we're never actually getting into this strings diff. We're never recognizing that these guys are the same. Is it just this? Let's just have a look at the strings differ. So that is what I had originally, right? Isn't it? Well, A and B. What was the other thing? Well, A and B is going to return. Oh, yeah. If strings differ at the B pointer. token strings, token comment single. So that should be that, shouldn't it? I mean, let's just be fully explicit about this. What's the problem? Well, hang on a second. Is that what you need to do? So getting... Oh shit, right, yeah, of course. Be back in a minute. So basically what I was doing was I was just comparing it against the entire buffer. I was comparing that little string against the entire buffer, which I don't want to be doing. What you actually want to do is compare it against a sized amount, a sized thing. So let me just put this back to how it was. It was like token strings, wasn't it? So the size is going to be the size of A. I is equal to size and B and well, actually what we well, I mean, and plus A and B, frankly. So actually A is going to be the thing that's null terminated, right? And also, actually, if it's a null terminated versus a non-null terminated, I mean, yes, you do need to still check that B is actually valid. Don't you? Or maybe you can't, actually. Because basically, right, the size of this we can know what the size of that is anyway because it's null terminated. That's actually Right, so we don't need that. I mean, it's sort of like, well, so while A is less than the length, then we're necessarily going to have, that is necessarily going to be valid. So it's really, and the not null terminated. Right. Yeah, I'm not using that. And it should be the other way around. I mean, that hadn't been called anyway, so it doesn't matter. Do we need any other? I guess also print tokens. Does print tokens actually do the new line? Yeah, apparently it does. Here's the content. Print the new line. Although I've not seen the new line. Let's give it another new line. That's definitely giving us a new line. Let's say so printing out that. And also it's sort of unsigned, so might as well just do that. Oh! Where's that coming from? Actually, yeah, that should be coming from there, shouldn't it? Well, no, it shouldn't. Right, so this is the print tokens. Right, if we don't do the print tokens, we still get some output. Now, where's the output coming from? That's what I'm wondering. Print tokens. is there? Print string should be printing out of that as it's been told to. What am I missing? Was push token doing a print? It was. That'll be it. Okay. So don't need that. Well, we could keep that. We wanted the print tokens. And we wanted the print tokens itself just to do the one new line, really. Like, could we just get that working? Yeah, we can. Okay. So they seem okay to me. I wonder if it'd be nice if... Doesn't really matter, but we don't include this or any white space in the thing, in the actual content. Right, so like if strings differ that comment single, then what we do is we say and then what we do is skip white space as well. Let's actually give it a buffer. Right. The reason being so that we can make sure we actually don't fly past the end of it. While that also, and then this is just our white spacing things. So the value of that is equal to that, or new line. Well, I guess that would kind of count, but in our case here it won't matter. Yeah, there we go. Maybe the print token could continue to just print out that stuff as I'm asking it to. Just while we're finishing this thing up. not sure I'm a big fan of that, actually. I guess we could also do the multi-line ones, couldn't we? That shouldn't be too difficult to do. Right? Then at least we've got 2 cases. And then it's while the strings differ between the token, between that. And there we go, right, so it's not actually, so the token, it's interesting, it's like the token itself is actually, is the full comment. Isn't it? So it's like we need to do sort of like this. We could also print out in the token printout thing the actual type of token that it was. And then this thing will literally be this. Right. And then the token, print token. say so yeah, that seems to be going okay. So there was a bit where I copied this stuff, wasn't there? I was lucky that that was the same length. I guess it might have been nice if when you get to the multi-close you back up like to before the white space preceding it. So they're all, everybody's going to have a token, right, aren't they? They're all going to have the idea of they're all going to have the idea of saying where the start of the thing is and what the length of it is and what the type of it is. So I could probably compress these cases down. Absolutely, probably. And just for each case have a bit of a different rule as to how it gets itself to the end of the token. I guess the question is, how do we know if something is an identifier? Do we just say if it starts with an alphabetical character? I mean, yeah, is it just like any non-numerical thing that isn't one of these and it's not that? Not sure. I think I might call it there though, for now. We've made a reasonable start. How long have we been doing it? A couple of hours? Oh, it's been an hour and a half. Okay, so that's been a reasonable length of time. We've started on the tokenizer, so how much have we actually written? We've written like 2 3/4 lines. In 2.5 hours. So a little bit over 100 lines per hour. As if that matters in the slightest. But yes, we've established the way we're doing it, I guess. So yeah, that is it for the stream. Probably that's it for the day, actually. So I probably won't stream tomorrow because I reckon we're expecting Handmade Hero to be happening, so I'll probably just tune into that. And I also don't want to clash. Sunday probably the same again. Monday I'll probably be indexing Handmade Heroes Sunday episode, so maybe I won't do a stream then. So it might be Tuesday when I'm back, or it might be Monday. Don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thank you very much for watching Heroes and Heroines. Yeah, and farewell for now.